Good morning, everyone. 5 years, 10 semesters, one final battle, the design dissertation. Thesis is the culmination of learnings that we acquire over the 10 semesters. In our near future, all of us will be fighting this battle some or the other day. Today, we are here to witness the journeys and experiences of this final endeavor from the recently graduated batch of 2015-2020. This gathering is an attempt to celebrate not only the successful outcomes, but also the different processes and experiments that have led to the conclusion of their academic universe. On behalf of Academy of Architecture, I welcome you all to the second session of Thesis Symposium 2020. We'll begin with our first speaker. He is Nandish Nakrani with his thesis titled Building Street Interface as a Medium of Transition, a mixed-use redevelopment project in Kalbadevi, Mumbai. Interface, a three-dimensional element, is the layer between the inside and the outside, which consists of various of networks between different elements that serve as a purpose to the life in the buildings as well as on the street. The urban intervention is a bridge connecting building facade, serving transit-oriented activities, whereas the architectural intervention is a mixed-use redevelopment building, which is part of the whole urban intervention scheme in the neighborhood. I now request Nandish Nakrani to take over the symposium. Nandish,
Yeah, hi, good
you
morning,
can.
everyone. So pretty much the introduction was clear to everyone, and I would like to start with my presentation, yeah, so it's visible.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, visible.
Yeah. So yes, the topic is the building street interface as a medium of transition. It's a mixed-use redevelopment project in Kalbadevi. So I'll start with the research as to how the how I arrived to this topic. When we started studying about various subjects which were taken into consideration of previous year's thesis, there were a lot of things which were in common. There were a lot of things which are interesting to me, and I always used to think about different topics which interested me as well. So I was always attracted to urban studies and issues related to urban spaces and things like clusters and streets and promenades and stuff like that. So I narrowed down to streets and their built environment and the built environment around it as my subject of interest, and then the next step was to narrow down on a topic which would really guide me through my thesis. So here I am. The next step was to actually get into this particular term, the interface. Uh, so what an interface is, I would tell you how I arrived to this. There is this a research paper by Maria Murray on liminal field of architecture, which I was introduced to by my guide Nachiket sir, who is present here. And that paper was pretty much specific about this new subject which I was introduced to about liminality. So what liminality is, it is about being in transition or in change of a change of phase. So like a liminal space is a space which is on one or on either sides of this transition. So that's how I coined this term interface, which is a three-dimensional space between a built and an unbuilt environment, which is the building, which is the built environment, and the streets, which is the outside, the unbuilt environment. So studying about this three-dimensional space between these two elements, and yeah, and then these are some of the questions which immediately came to my mind regarding this subject, and these images would give you an idea about what kind of this space or what kind of this environment is like. So yeah, this illustration will pretty much tell you about the scope of what the interface is. These drawings are depicting the area of intervention or the area of effect of the interface. These might vary, this might not. So that's pretty much an overview about it. So the most important thing about this research was to narrow down on the principles of the interface, which would really define whether the interface is effective, whether it's good, whether it's not. Various things about it. So these principles were really a guiding element for the research, which I had to incorporate in the book, which came into place after I referred a lot of books and research papers and articles from different people like Christopher Alexander, Himanshu Bulte, and all these people have written a lot about the values of space, the values of urban space, and I selected or I researched about them, and I got into two different kinds of qualities or two different kinds of principles. So one is physical qualities and second is the symbolic qualities. The physical quality is all about when you are in that space, what you get from that built environment around you, and the symbolic qualities are what you perceive after looking at that particular object. So in physical qualities, there are four principles under it, which is physical penetrability, occupiability, diversity, and visual permeability. And under symbolic qualities, it's balance, rhythm, unity, and emphasis. So these are the principles which would identify how the interface is on ground. And yeah, so yeah, the next step was to get onto a site and to really understand what the ground reality is and how actually we feel around this kind of a three-dimensional space. So I went around and a lot of areas in Mumbai to just visit them and get a point of view of that space. And there's a set criteria which I had to narrow down to get into the site. So this criteria was to have diversity of various user groups and functions and architectural styles and communities, different eras of buildings, and also if there are buildings from different eras, it would be really nice to have buildings in which are recently developed and which are almost in a dilapidated condition to see how that building is still sustaining. It should be well connected to the city with various modes of transportation, having a good network, and also a prime locality for the real estate market, so that it would really help me to add value socially and commercially. So one such regions is the Girgaon and Kalbadevi area. Adding on to it is the Buleshwar side, also on the eastern side. So I happened to visit all these areas in a span of like 1 month, and visit these neighborhoods and walking on the streets pretty much almost every alternate day, and getting to understand the essence of that site rather than just mapping things, mapping ye sab kidhar hai, waisa kidhar hai. So to really sit and be on the site helped me to understand what kind of space and what kind of environment that any particular building on the site is giving me, especially the interface which is there in between the building and the street. So yeah, I for the research I narrowed down on a few buildings which were of different kinds and analyze them on how their interfaces would be according to the principles. And yes, next was the study area for my thesis. So here I start with the design study for the site for the design. So in this particular area, there is this stretch of JSS Road, which is Jagannath Shankar Shet Road, which is between the Metro Cinema Junction towards the south and the Opera House Junction in the north. This road is particular, I think it's about 2.5 kilometers long. And on this particular stretch, there is this underground metro line which is going under the road. And there are two metro stations, Kalba Devi and Girgaon metro station, coming up on this patch. So I had these two options, Kalba Devi and Girgaon metro stations, because there were new buildings which are coming up by the metro authorities for their underground station, as well as they were developing new buildings for rehabilitation of people who were affected by this projects. So there were these new projects coming up, and I was interested in to study about them and also intervene somewhere around them those areas. So I selected a patch which is near the Kalba Devi metro station, which was around 500 meters in between the Princess Street Junction, which you can see on this side, which goes towards the Marine Line station, and a junction over here, which is also where this road also particularly goes towards the station. So this is between the Bhuleshwar market, which is on the top over here, and the Marine Lines railway station, which is on the bottom over here. So this particular road acts as a junction between these two major destinations. Uh, and there's a lot of pedestrian movement between the in these small lanes and by lanes, and the vehicular movement is majorly on the outside roads. So to cater to this pedestrian movement and a lot of activities happening over there, I selected this particular patch, and I studied the buildings around there and what their characters are on ground. Some of the volumetric studies are also conducted to understand the space, the urban space in that patch. So all these buildings in blue were understood and were selected to sort of get into the build space. So I conducted a few studies regarding the building orientations, because a lot of buildings there are quite close, and they are pretty much together and affecting each other in a very effective manner. Uh, then also various typologies of the buildings and how their ground conditions are, how the clusters are, how the building entries and exits and all sorts of those things. And these are some of the visuals from the site. You can see this particular patch is a narrow street. It's a one-way road, and not a lot of vehicular movement. But yeah, in peak hours, it can be there can be some congestion. And yeah, adding on to it some other characters of the site regarding the shops and the temporary vendors, the character of buildings on ground and above the ground. And also, I spoke to a lot of people over there to get their point of view, like the residents, the people working over there, the pedestrians, shopkeepers, and the motorists. And yeah, so the next step was to narrow down on actually what to do for the design, because till this point of time, I was really not clear about what the program would be, what the the design would look like. So I this was during the end of the semester, and I really struggled to get into this point. And the main thing was to have an urban intervention on the street, uh, as to how an interface would sorry as to how the interface would help to add value to this site. So I looked into an issue of road widening there, because I really was reading a lot about road widening schemes around the city, and what their effect was, and were they really effective, were they really did they really work for the people, and how specifically it affects the interface. So, so that road widening thing, which according to my analysis, was that it's not actually a good idea to have a positive effect on the interface, but it really mellows down the interface and the activities around it. So I went on to address that, and to how to have an alternate for road widening, and how to add another layer of transit onto the street. So the interface would be an element which would help into this particular thing, which was yeah. So which was as a bridge which would really connect all the facades of the building, and it will go along all these buildings along the street, which would add another layer on top of it at 6 meters, which would clear from the ground, and all these activities could happen on that bridge connecting all the buildings. So these were some of the strategies and policies which would work there, like as to how the buildings would get into this particular scheme. So how this happens is this bridge will particularly start as soon as the metro commences, metro line 3 commences, and till then, whichever buildings are redeveloping over there, which is already taking a lot of pace over there, these buildings will redevelop with this patch of the bridge with them, and this would create a stretch of this bridge on the street. And if the buildings do not want to redevelop, and there can be some temporary installations, there could be some temporary connections. So yeah, the scope is around the Kalbadev and Girgaon metro station. And yeah, the analysis which I would suggest is a really important thing, the triple bottom line analysis, which would really help you to get into the basics of the scheme. Yeah, there are these some calculations which were required to do for the size on the bridge. What would be the width? What would be the capacity which it would cater to? And yeah, some of the constants which me myself, the designer, would set, and some of the variables which the user or the developer, which is really important to for them to give direction as to how this entire scheme would come up in this place. The structural grid was I selected a structural grid which was a diagonal grid which adds a sense of contrast to the verticality on the site, and these are the few joints, some details regarding to it. Yeah, and the next was the architectural intervention, which would detail out on how this bridge would connect with a particular building on site. So the how then architectural intervention matters is as to how I'm treating with the site. So I thought of a site as a thoroughfare between two different lanes on the site, and as to how I can create small lanes, by lanes, courtyards in between in this site. So in this patch, between the two metro stations, which you can see these blank spaces, these new metro buildings are coming up. This particular patch was ideal for me to cater to this situation in between this main street and the rear street, and acting as a thoroughfare in between. And also clearing out this spot for vehicular interchange for the metro station, which is going to come up. And this particular intersection, because this area on the site was catering to a lot of pedestrian movement, because people coming from the top over here were going towards the station and vice versa. So this was a prominent junction over there. So I had to redevelop a few buildings, get them down and get a new building over there. And these are the details. Yeah, so the program was to have a clear idea as to how and what would I do on site. Because if you're going for redevelopment, there has to be a strong reason with it, because redevelopment, there is also already a big issue over there. People are of divided opinions. So I had a good conversation with a group of residents and to get a point of view from their side, and set a framework according to their requirements. And yes, set a few design goals carrying forward the principles of interface and my objectives of redevelopment, and some zoning and massing strategy. So the idea was to have internal interfaces, and to narrow down on the interface to a smallest occupiable space from the street, and not just to focus on the two fronts which are there on the site. Yeah, and now these are the drawings regarding the related to the design. This is the ground floor plan, and you can see some of the highlighted design goals which are there. So the program is basically simple. It's only re-accommodating people from the existing building, which are commercial occupants and residential occupants. And there was a 2-star hotel over there, which was also to be occupied, given reoccupation. And the building on the the building in the bottom is a commercial building, and the building on the rear is a residential. So to have a commercial front on the main street where the metro station related activities would happen, also give them an advantage. And the residential building was in the rear part where it was more private towards the rear side. Yeah, a few more floor plans. You can see on the bottom, the commercial building is so the organization was to have terraces in between to break down the form in to have the interfaces towards the internal side, and not just focus on the external street side, and also in the residential building as well. A few details on the edges which would add value to the most smallest of occupiable space. These are the floor plan units. Yeah, so you could see the building in the front on the main street. There's a bridge cutting through the front part on the first floor, where all the retail activities are happening. So on the ground floor and the first floor, all these retail activities and commercial activities are happening for maximum engagement. And on the upper floor, sorry, there are these offices and the two-star hotel, which is on the top two floors, and the residential building on the rear side. So in these sections, if you see, especially for the residential building, on the bottom right thing, this right building, the taller one is a residential one, where I try to divide the entire building into clusters of 4 floors according to the human reach in terms of communication and visual interaction, to have a sort of cluster in between them for a good engagement on ground and to the topmost floor. So these clusters of 4 floors stacking above each other and creating this unit. In future, it can also be expanded as per requirements if they need to. Yeah, a few of the visuals from the side. These the image A will show you the courtyards in between the commercial building. Second one is a lobby in the residential area. The third and the fourth one are surroundings at the site, surrounding of the building. Sorry. Yeah, a few more sections and yeah. And to add on to the visuals, there was a specific focus given to nighttime visuals, because obviously, half of the time in the day is the nighttime, and we usually ignore that part. And to get to know it as to how the artificial light would add on to the design value. Yeah, the elevations and a few details to the facades. Yeah, that's it. Now it's visible.
Yeah, Nandish. If anyone has a question, they can unmute themselves and ask.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Nilesh, were there a lot of um, discussions between you and the occupants of this area right from the beginning, or did that happen later on?
It was so when I went on to select a site over there during my research time, there at that time also I had spoken to a lot of people over there. So I was into that engagement with the with people living in that area, not particularly this site, but people in general living in this area. And when I was narrowing down to a site and the program, people living in this building were really my focus to understand their point of view and to know what they actually want from the development of their buildings.
Hmm. Also, later on, because you questioned the existing DC regulations to quite a to quite an extent.
Yeah.
Um, and you were coming out with the suggestions which were outside the present bylaws.
Hmm.
What were the safeguards you took? Did you speak to experts, both within
Uh,
college and outside college?
yeah, so the first and the most important thing there was to actually understand the regulations which are already there, to get a complete idea of it, and as to why they are in place. For example, why do we have front open space? What are the requirements of that for ventilation or for fire? And to basically understand what these regulations are, and then the next step was to have those reasons in place, have those essentials in place, and to give another point of view. For
Hmm.
this, I also spoke to a few of my faculty members in college, and also who were related to legal studies, and also people from outside college, which who were in my family. Of there are a few people in my family who are into construction and development, as to also to get their point of view in this particular matter. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I have a question, Nandesh
Yes,
Shipat.
sir.
Uh, what was the experiential difference of earlier 9 semesters when you had an instructed design problem and this was a self-constructed design problem? What
Mhm.
was the difference in experience and did it actually change the outlook towards architecture as such?
Yeah, definitely. So actually, this was not the first project where we were supposed to get into, a detailed program by ourselves. In semester 6 and in semester 9, we had been given a brief for the design, but we were also being told to develop our own program according to the requirements of the site. So we already had an experience regarding this approach. So the major difference here was to, as when you get a program in hand, you know what to exactly do, what to exactly place where. But in this particular case, you also need to understand, whether that program which is given to you or whether that program which you're thinking is right is actually right in a good sense or not, or actually whether what you're doing is developable. Are there people who can invest into it? Are there people who can occupy it? So when the program is being charted out, a lot of focus is being given to all these concerns as well. That's the major reason, as to get more self awareness as to how the project will start from scratch and then go to occupation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Nandesh. The next speaker for the symposium is Karan Malkan with his thesis titled Yatharth, Cultural Appropriation in Case of Retail Architecture. The thesis argues that identity of a built form should be culturally appropriate. It takes the case of retail architecture to further discern this notion of cultural appropriation. The idea is to expand the cycle of production and consumption from the mere exchange of goods to the food one eats, to the music one listens, the crafts, the skills, and the thoughts. A public forum that is identified by its cultural landscape. The thesis looks at redevelopment of a BMC vegetable market in Borivali for its intervention. I now request Karan to take over the symposium.
Okay, so hello, am I audible?
Yes, Karan.
Yeah, so thank you, Vedant, for the brief presentation. I'll quickly move on to the thesis presentation. Hello, yeah. So Yathartha, cultural appropriation in the case of retail architecture. So the thesis looks at appropriating architectural built form in case of retail spaces. So for that, let us actually understand the case of retail. So, and understanding the architecture that evolved behind various production and consumption cycles. So, retail has always been present since ancient times, and it has evolved constantly from bazaar streets to the current e-commerce giants. So, the bazaar typology, along with the aspect of buying and selling a commodity, contributed in the production and consumption of various public activities and events. It was recognized as the most public forum. Then, in the 1920s, with a shift in the economy in US, a rise to downtowns came place, and because of the rise in downtowns, the mall typology came place. So people used to travel from their downtowns to the mall for with the sole intention of buying a commodity. So the entire production cycle shifted to consumer oriented, where sales and consumer was glorified. Then, with the rise of e-commerce, the cycle of production and consumption of goods and efficiency was taken to a maximum level where malls couldn't really hold its grounds. So and for the e-commerce sector, the architecture then shifted to warehouses and logistics hubs, where the public was completely neglected, and the sole activity came down to exchange of goods and goods. So the idea behind this thesis was to consciously broaden the spectrum of retail from not only the production and consumption of goods, but also the production and consumption of the food one eats, the music one listens to, the culture. The idea is to form a new landscape where it again becomes a forum for exchange of not only goods, but also thoughts, crafts, and skills. So analyzing the production and consumption patterns at the proposed site of intervention. So since my idea was to create appropriate architectural spaces, I've never really looked at various sites, compared it and analyzed it and pick one site. My idea from the start was to take a site that I had in mind and analyze it thoroughly and provide an architectural intervention that is appropriate for that site. So I directly took the Borivali West BMC market, which is situated right across the SV road and adjacent to the station. So this site since 1950s has been primarily dominated by its retail activities. So over the last 5 decades, the site has seen a lot of commercial developments and redevelopments because of the presence of the railway station and high amount of public influx and mobility. So the earlier development were more homogeneous and public oriented. So like shopping centers, G structure shopping centers, where each shops were of equal spaces and equal importance. Whereas later on, the developments shifted in dynamics and were constructed as malls of utilizing maximum FSI and maximum saleable areas. So as you can see in this graphic, the difference in the utilization of space in the malls and the shopping centers or the streets is such that so if you see the use of space on the SV road compared to the so-called malls, the malls are now, the second and third floor of the malls are now being used as coaching classes or warehouses, whereas the shopping centers with homogeneous shops on first and second floor still have retained their footfall and the high amount of density and public interest. Also, around 10 years ago, the site has seen the development of a skywalk, which has been very redundant and very less used because of its cramped entry exit points and poorly designed and less efficiency in space. So the site, the thesis looks at redevelopment of a BMC market, which is being constructed in 1951. So it's around 60 years old, in a very dilapidated state and in a dire need of redevelopment. So the entire study of the retail production and consumption cycle with the analysis of this site, the thesis intends to appropriate this vegetable market and apply all of the learnings. So moving on to the proposed programs for the intervention. So the first primary set of programs include rehabilitating the existing market programs. So the market has a fixed number of vegetable shops, fruit shops, cutlery shops, fish market, all of the like existing shops that are being redeveloped. Also the market lane, since it is a 60-year-old entity, the area has been identified as a market lane and hosts a lot of hawker activities. So the hawkers are also a part of the urban fabric and cannot be neglected. Along with that, on analyzing the various other build forms and activities, I have proposed a set of programs that actually are coherent to the site, such as roof gardens, cafes, food courts, proper unloading and public toilets, along with a flea market on tops. Yeah, so the idea was to create a lower ground which is already existing, and also to create an upper ground with an intention to activate the existing skywalk. So, and then to apply the study of appropriation in retail and take the whole entity to an online forum, while also providing a distribution office and a logistics center at the same spot. So the idea of having built an existing exchange and production cycle that also is linked to an online forum, so that you so that when people visit the site, they know that they might not even intend to buy something, but they know that such things happen in this spot, and then it is in the back of their head and they can order it online also. Yeah, so this is the conceptualization of spaces. So on the ground floor, I have organized the existing ancillary functions and the market functions, such as the vegetable market, the fruit market, the fish market, created an alternate lane at the back, so that a continuous thoroughfare has been created on the ground with open plazas that intersect both of them, and have a proper dedicated loading and unloading area at the back. With that, on the first floor, I have provided a continuous thoroughfare entrance and exit points, and located all the food and clothing and such secondary public programs on the first floor. Moving on to the second floor, I've provided the workshop areas. So the workshop areas are also categorized into two forms, like the tailoring workshops and the crafts workshops. So on the study of the site, every shop, every clothing shop, or every shop, any other mobile shop or repairing shop or such shops usually have a back-end workshop area, where on the in, let's say for an example of a clothing shop, in the false ceiling you will mostly find a darji or a tailor sitting, where he does all the altering and all such jobs. So my idea was to appropriate that space, because that isn't a very appropriate space in itself. So I thought of modulating the existing truss forms such a way to craft space that can hold the workshop areas. Then through the modulation of trusses, I've accommodated such space. And on the top, as I mentioned, I put all the ancillary public spaces, creating a thorough loop of the existing skywalk, and creating an upper ground. So yeah, as I explained, so this entire central portion is the redevelopment of the existing market space with increased areas and increased efficiency. At the back is a second thoroughfare, which takes place of the entire loading and unloading during the day, and during the evening it can also be used as a evening food truck plaza and a public forum at this center, and which and the market lane and the rare thorough lane are intersected by two courtyards and plazas running across. So the whole idea behind the design was to maintain the public influx in and out, because the study also suggested that the second and third floor, the ground floor is always active and it will be function, but the moment you put in a entry and exit blockage and make people go up to the second and third floor through one point, the design chokes up. So so while designing, my whole purpose was to maintain the fluidity between the design. Also, a small design detailing aspects were to provide a seafood market and its kitchen right adjacent to the fish market, so that the art of buying a fish is accompanied by the art of cooking a fish. So like, even though you are just intended to buy something from the fish market, you are seeing the same thing being cooked in that kitchen, and that stays and that registers in your memory. So eventually, even if you don't intend to visit this seafood restaurant, eventually you are like, let's check that out, because the kitchen was good, the art was good. So generating businesses through memories. Okay. So moving on to the first floor. The first floor is entirely dedicated to the ancillary public activities, where there is an anchor restaurant with its kitchen, homogeneous food courts. It has an overlooking terrace corridor loaded with clothing shops, and also a crafts market at the entrance. On the second floor is where the public, like the target functions, come into place, the workshop areas and the reading centers. So in the workshop areas are located right underneath, right over the clothing shops. So you can so the hierarchy of darji sitting in the false ceiling in the same shop is still maintained through a trap door, but now the space is appropriated for that darji also. So even while you can see the truss form has a cutout, so it is like this. It's an override the mark. So from the market you can still look upwards, and you'll notice that there are people working over there. So even if you don't intend to actually visit that space, that gets registered in your head that हाँ उधर कोई ना कोई तो कुछ काम कर रहा है. So when you actually need to buy something or get something altered or something, you know where to go, or connected on the online platform, you know where the existing physical form is of that place. And yeah, along with that, this floor also holds some ancillary functions such as reading centers and gaming centers, because the site is also, as I said, holds a lot of coaching classes and such student-centric activities because of its proximity to the railway station. So a lot of practicing CA students or MBA or any other professional students can use this space to actually sit and read for their exams. And yeah, since this portion of the site was demarcated as a parking lot, so on the second floor above the ground, I've provided a public parking space that gets looped to the public floor and the skywalk above it, still keeping the integrity of the public flow in place. Yeah, so moving on to the top layer, the upper ground. So on the upper ground, the idea was to solely create large public gathering spaces, such as the rooftop flea markets, roof gardens, public sports stuff, and a creche for the kids. So the whole idea was that food court is on the central level, the public activity zones are on the top level, and the shopping zones, the existing zones, are on the ground and the first level. So the hierarchy of spaces was maintained as such. I'll move on to the sections. It will be much easier to explain. Yeah. So in this section, you can see the space dynamics between the spaces, such that this is the road. There is the entrance veranda and the hawker zones happening out over here, and you also have an overlooking corridor that looks over the spaces. In the center is the existing market spaces. Onto the right is the unloading that takes place during the morning, and which changes its dynamics to an evening food truck plaza. So overlooking to that, and in relation with the vegetable market, is the central food court space at a split floor level from that. And the food court space with its deck is connected to the top public intercourse level, the skywalk level, which at the back also gets connected to the flea market and loops through the skywalk and gets connected to the neighborhood. And in this section itself, at the top, you can see the distribution office, which was the intention to provide an emphasis in the form and also link the whole thing to an online platform. Also, in all of these sections, the trusses you see are the existing trusses salvaged from the existing build form of the market. So yeah, so the in order to craft the workshop spaces, the trusses were used in such a way that a space, like a small tiny space, is also magnified because of the angular form of the truss. So yeah, as I mentioned, the workshops and the shops have a vertical interface, and even when you are shopping from the ground, you can have a look at what is going on at all levels. So it gets registered in your peripheral vision and memory. So yeah, also this section explains the same thing. So this is the circulation diagram, where everything that I've been explaining comes to a loop. So the entire circulation is designed in a circular loop, where you can enter through various points and exit through various points. There is no one such entry point and one such exit point limiting the movement of people. Yeah, so you can have a look at this. This is a holistic isometric view of the entire design in response to the neighborhood. So these are some before and after images of the render. So this was the existing back-end edge, which is now imagined as an unloading space and a food truck plaza. This is the underutilized rooftops, which are now being converted into skylight trusses using the existing same trusses, and also created a public upper ground level. So this is the junction between the SP road and the market lane, where there was no proper space for the hawkers or any such congregation space at the entrance. So these are a few shop details, which everything in this design was kept modular so that it can change as per the functions during the times and its uses. So all the construction is done using MS box sections and MS sections. So this let's move on to the details. So this is the primary detail where I've used the existing trusses and modified the spaces of workshop and the facade, and created a form for the facade. So this zone over here, this zone accommodates the hawker zones and provides a shade for the same. This zone becomes the veranda for the ground floor shop fronts, and this zone becomes the veranda for the upper floor shop fronts, while maintaining a common interaction between the ground and the first. So this is the WD detail for that. Moving on to some other details. So more joinery details. Yeah, so this is the central truss modulation detail for the market, where skylights have been incorporated. So this detail is created at the entrance to create an emphasis on the north light. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. So this space is how I visualized it: appropriating the hawkers, appropriating the ground floor shops, appropriating the existing market functions, and also creating while creating a public forum for the same. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Karan. Thanks a lot.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, can we have questions for Karan?
I have got one question.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
A very nice approach, Karan. It's a good mix of imagination and practicality. Well done. My question was, I missed a little bit at the start, in the early part. Bad connection. I wanted to ask about your case studies. Which were your case studies for your design?
So for my case studies, I did a lot of them. So I visited a website called Great Public Spaces. In that, I looked at Chatuchak market. I looked at the historic Renkyo market. I looked at the Manifesto market. So a lot of ancient markets, as well as a lot of constructed markets, where spaces were actually appropriated, keeping in mind the public, and also such markets that have been developed by the public and are naturally appropriated in that sense.
Okay. All right. Did you also look at our own Kirtikar market, or was that too small?
No, the one in Dadar, which
Yes,
market?
yes. That's the one.
Yeah, so I've looked at that market also. So in fact, in semester 5, we did a whole entire redevelopment project on that market itself.
Okay, so you knew something about already.
Yes. So that's why I didn't actually look at various other sites in Mumbai, because I knew that I can take practically any site and appropriate it. But I took Borivali since it was my neighborhood, and I've been living in that area since, and I know that area since the past 2 decades. So the personal experience was a lot better in that side.
That's right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Any other question?
I guess there are not. So thanks a lot, Karan, for being part of Thesis Symposium. We'll now move on to our next entry.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
The next speaker for the symposium is Mansi Ambore with a thesis titled as Swarangan Campus for Music. Music as sound has always been a secondary ally to any form of visual communication, be cartoons, ads, or performances. Or even so, there is always a white noise around us which differentiates two spaces depending on its surrounding soundscape. Surely, music and space, if used skillfully, individually, or combined, do have an impact on the users. The thesis aims to bring back to light the essence of music, indulging with space to create a better spatial experience. We now request Mansi to take over the symposium.
Hi, thanks for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. I'll be talking about, I'll try not to talk too much about the design aspect of my project, but the overall process of how I shifted from your dissertation book to the designing process. Right, so I'll just share my screen. Right. So the project topic was Swarangan, which means Swaransa Angan, or in Marathi, or Swaronka Angan in Hindi, if you will. Yeah. Swarangan means a campus. It literally transforms to a campus for music. We'll move forward to what or who was my audience, or what drove me to take this topic, or this project, right? So music has always been like I have been a you could consider me as an audience of music from a very beginning, from a very little age, from a very young age. Yeah, and that is something that stayed with me. And then I also I'll just take a moment, right? My audience was the independent musicians. Yeah. How did I narrow down to that audience, and why did I not take the general public as an audience? Is because I've worked with some of the independent musicians as a photographer, right? So I know that what they lack, or what they want in the industry, that we do not have in Mumbai or any other cities in general, right? So yeah, so these are just a couple of functions that we that there are there in the country, or that they are there, but we do not they are not emphasized much on for our daily, like for example, music instruction. So there are not many music teachers which could formally for formal education. There are a couple of schools, very handful number of schools, but they are too expensive and they're not open for public in general, right? So we wanted to create something that was that could be used by even just any music enthusiasts, be it from any walks of life, right? It shouldn't be restricted to the higher end of the society, or you get my point, right? Okay. Um, and also another aspect was the lost art of instrument making. Um, before my thesis, I had visited to Auroville in Pondicherry, where there's this space that they called the Sound Garden, and Swaram is their instrumental, is their music shop, which they've commercialized a little, right? So in the campus of Swaram, they had this instrument making shop, which was open to the tourists there, or people who would want to make their own instruments like that, right? So this experimentation of music instruments, right? If there's this instrument called the handpan, the hand drum, which has originated in Norwegia, I think. Yes, it's in Switzerland actually, and is in famous in Norwegia, right? So what is this instrument? It's an inverted drum, right? It's made from metal or steel, but the inspiration is taken from the inverted drum. So this experimentation ki किसी फॉर्म को देख के समझना कि this could create music, or this could that experimentation of making your own music, right, to make a provision for people to think freely around that area, right? So that was one of the functions. So these are not we can't say that these are my main function of the project, but these are the small objectives that I want to convey through the entire design. So I have different zones for different little concerns of mine. So that's one thing that we could do. Instead of taking a little concern and making it into a problem, into a design problem, and then giving a solution, that's not that's I won't say that would be a right approach um, to making a project. Let's not make a project and just cater to little things, right? All we can do is propose a design and not impose a design, right, on the users, right? um, okay, moving on to the aim. The general aim of the project was like we discussed, that there are not many there's not such strong infrastructure in Mumbai for musicians, or be it budding musicians or established musicians. There are very handful recording studios or jam studios, or abhi hip hop is rising up recently in Bombay. So there are not many ciphering spaces. Cipher is their jugalbandi ka spaces for hip hop enthusiasts, right? Um, so yeah, these were some of the and also street music is not something that is very celebrated in India, maybe because of the other socio-cultural issues. But that aside, we could there are not public performing spaces for somebody, say somebody who is a music enthusiast, but he doesn't have an audience, right? So if somebody turns to the streets to have an audience of themselves, they are generally down upon as, you know, um, it's not a very good image for people to do that, right? That if that is one of my that was one of my concerns, but that's not something I could do about to change people's minds that way, right? um, right. Another of the aspects of the project was, why couldn't we use music as a therapy, right? If it's in Bombay, so my site selection, I had chosen. I'll just brush on that. I had chosen two of the sites. Both were in Bombay. Yeah, one was this Gyanashram, and the other one was in Malad. I would come to that later. But so the point was, living in Bombay, living in this fast-paced city, we could maybe provide with something that makes you feel that you are not in the city, but it's also accessible that way, right? So yeah, so we could have a music therapy studio or something like that. These studios we still have in Bombay, but like I said, they are all for the higher end um, uh, public, like higher end sect of the society, right? We need to make this accessible and yeah, affordable for all. So with that aim, the project kind of culminates down to the entire campus of music, right? Now let's talk about what Bombay has, right? Before that, I would like to give a little general tip. Yeah. A general tip is that while presenting your jury, right, you could give the jurors something to know more about. For example, it's like we have like these terminologies, jam rooms, or say gig venues. Yeah, jam rooms or gig venues. These are not general terms that generally everybody knows, right? These are specific. Most of y'all must be knowing, since considering we are just we are of the young age. But yeah, so these terminologies could be something that could add authenticity to your presentation, to your design as a whole. So throughout the design you don't have to say अरे jam rooms मतलब practice rooms होता है, gig venues are concert venues. Cutting off from the commercial terminology, concert venues or practice rooms, this gig venues and jam rooms make it a little personal also. So try to figure out terminologies in your own project, in your own functions, that could help you catch the listener, catch the jurors into your, and involve them into your design a little, right? Yeah, so this is just a general mentioning of what studios we have and what gig venues we have, what music schools we have. These are, yeah. Right. Moving on to the next thing is how I came to, how I decided to get the campus inspiration from, or how did it strike me कि अच्छा ऐसा बना सकते हैं, ऐसा कुछ बनाना चाहिए, right? So yeah, I'll start with CAD. CAD is a Control Alt Delete. It's a music festival, 2-day music festival in Bombay, in Malad. There's this place called Roaring Farms. So that was just by fluke that I attended CAD a couple of years before my thesis. And वहाँ पे scene ऐसा था कि there were 5 genres of music playing. It was a 2-day music festival, so there were 40 artists, and there were 5 different genres of music playing in the same campus. So that is something that I thought was very interesting. कि एक ही time पे, if there are 5 different stages and nobody is getting disturbed by that, and everybody, मतलब, on one side there was heavy metal playing with huge amplifiers and all of the with a crowd of 200 people, and on the other side there was a little set of rhythm and blues under a tree without a stage, just one mic, one amplifier, and a crowd of say 20-30 people. So that was something that caught my eyes ki, in one space how can you differentiate different sound zones, या फिर different zones in all, to cater to different audiences, right? This was one of this catered to one of my aspects of project program formations, and the other, like I had mentioned before, that I've visited Swaram in Auroville. So that was another place that I could take inspiration from, right? Swaram has their own sound healing studio, if you call it a studio, right? And for that studio, they use the instruments that they have made themselves on their in their music workshop, right? So they keep experimenting with different materials and turning it into soothing or healing sounds. That, but of course, you need a professional for that. I won't suggest you can take just any soothing sound and treat it as a healing treatment. But that aside, there should be a provision to make your own instrument and then have a studio and then provide it as a service. That also comes under the revenue generation or sustainability, financial sustainability of the project, that I'll come to later. Yeah. And yeah, they have a sound garden that makes you walk through instruments, and that sound heals you, right? makes you walk through instruments, or makes you pass through a certain stream of water, that the rustling of leaves, and then all of those natural sounds are artificially, or are created artificially. They are designed to be there, but when a human walks through them, so that human interaction with the natural sounds is something that we have been looking in our design as well, right? And another aspect, these all three of these were kind of my case studies for three different aspects of the design. कि एक तो ये है कि function क्या हो, एक तो ये है कि प्रोग्राम और साउंडस्केप किस चीज से इंस्पिरेशन ले सकता है, and the other one was planning. So coming to the planning of Auroville, when we visited there, it was kind of, we first of all, we had gone off season, so there weren't many people there, and we had to actually find all of the places by ourselves. So there's just one main street that goes to the Matri Mandir. If you all know, Matri Mandir is what Auroville is the most famous for. It is a meditation center, right? But apart from the Matri Mandir, also there are many architectural wonders, or many experimental architectural structures that you would see on your way, or they are hidden into the very interiors of the town, right? And these interiors are not, there's, like I said, there's one straight road. उसके बाद तो जो भी branch out होता है, that is totally on soil. There are no roads, there are no branching out roads like that. So you have to go on, मतलब तुमको उसके लैंडस्केप को फॉलो करते तुमको आगे बढ़ना है, एंड देन यू समवेयर यू काइंड ऑफ सी स्ट्रक्चर इन मिडल ऑफ all of the greenery, and then when you approach the structure, तब समझता है कि अच्छा, this is something that an architect should be visiting, apart from all of the other things also. So that is one aspect, that surprise element, that is what I took with me, is there should be a surprise element. And जिसे वो a person who knows the campus, coming to our design, a person who knows what is on the campus, only that person would be able to go to a restricted or a private area, right? We'll come to that. For example, we have hostels and a therapy studio we have. So we won't want all of the tourists to go into the hostels or go into the tourist area zones. So that's how Auroville is how I took that inspiration to build the landscape also, such that it creates its own zones, and and divide the spaces into public and non-public spaces, not by physical dead walls or physical walls, but by other natural
Mansi,
landscape elements. Right?
Mansi, you'll have to speed
Yeah?
up a bit. I mean, you have 5 more minutes,
okay,
and you'll
okay.
have to conclude the presentation.
Right, okay. Right. So coming to the sites, I'll just brush on the sites. Roaring Farms is where CAD happened, and so that was one of my sites that I had considered, and then narrowed down to Gyanashram. Gyanashram is in Andheri. It sits on a hilltop, so that cuts you off from the city, but also lets you there's a easy accessibility to the site, right? And also it's a heavy contour site, so that was just one approach that it could help in soundscaping or landscaping of the project. I could benefit from that. Right. This is just general study and character of site, of how the site is now. Yeah. This was this was my basic concept to of a hand pan drum, and then that was divided into public non-public spaces, and then the design was placed according to that, right? This is just, I'll brush through this. These are just plain plans. One general tip I would like to say is, if you're taking music or dance or any other art forms, then don't just boil down to one. Don't restrict yourself to one function. कि अच्छा music है तो music institute बना देंगे. ऐसे this I would say कि this won't be a very right approach. I'd say don't restrict to a function unless you have studied all about the aspect of the physicality of music, or the aspect of your topic choice of topic. Yeah. Yeah, these are just plain sections. You could have a look at these later. Yeah. Also, one important thing that I faced that I faced is in a positive way during my design during the whole thesis process is also your choice of guide affects your design, right? Or affects your or it has a positive effect on your design, right? Don't choose a guide because some people some professors might give you a good ranking or are lenient that way. That won't be the right approach, I would say. Choose a guide depending on your topic का knowledge, वो तो है ही, topic का knowledge भी हो, and if some professor मतलब the way मतलब if you're not a regular student and you don't like to regularly show ऐसे every week काम दिखाने के लिए काम मत दिखाना कि अच्छा इस week भी दिखाना है तो ये दिखा देता हूँ. प्रोफेसर से बात करके you could shift that flexibility should be there कि तुमको भी अपना space of mind मिले कि तुम उस बारे में ठीक से सोच सको, and not just for producing work ऐसे technically कुछ कर रहे हो ऐसे नहीं. You need to be passionate about your project, and that's that. Yeah, that would be all I'd like to say.
Thanks a lot, Mansi. It was very insightful.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we have any questions for Mansi?
I'll just brush through the views till the questions come.
Yeah, Mansi, you can.
I just have a comment. Very nicely done, Mansi. With a lot of sensitivity and humanness. Well done. Did you have maybe there is a related question. How did you get to this? How did you come to this topic, this subject?
Right. So, like I said, sir, music has been a part of me from a very young age, and actually, I had taken a drop for 2 years before my year of thesis, and then I worked as a photographer, a freelance photographer, and a documentary photographer, where I was working with musicians. Independent musicians majorly. So
oh yes, you did say that. Yes.
Yes, sir. So that's how I got to know ki acha this is missing, or this is something that we can have more of. So that's what I tried to propose.
Okay. So your approach is kind of indie as well.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes. Well done anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions?
I don't think there are any more. So thanks a lot, Mansi. We'll now move on to our next speaker. Our final speaker for this session is Priksha Chheda. with her thesis titled as Celebrating Mandvi. While romanticizing about its beautiful past and the built form that has developed over the years, the thesis curiously inquires about Mandvi's tourism-oriented future development plans. An action-oriented plan that refines Mandvi's own architecture for inclusive tourist plugins and does not define it into a clone-stamped tourist destination package to be sold. On a larger picture, the thesis addresses the idea of using architecture as a tool to package places as destinations to be sold rather than journeys to be experienced. I now request Preksha to take over.
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, guys. I know lunch is nearing, so I'll be really quick with this. And thanks for the introduction. I'll start presenting my screen. Yeah, so my thesis, basically, the trigger point began with the old town of Mandvi, which is located in Kutch, which is very close to my native place. So I have visited this town a numerous amount of times since my childhood, and out of mere curiosity about this town, I just took it up as my topic, like let's inquire about town and let's see what can be done there. So I really started off very blank onto the site. So for all those who don't know, Mandvi is located on the western edge of our country. It's a coastal town in Kutch. I initially, when I went to site, I started mapping different landmarks and old buildings that have existed onto site. Now, Mandvi is a very old civilization. It used to be a trade town. There used to be slave trade that used to happen out here. People used to send goods to Tanzania or Zanzibar and those places. Also, people used to go to Hajj for their pilgrims from Mandvi before other sorts of transport modes were on. So it was a very important trade town initially, and hence it was never even colonized. But however, later on, due to nationalization, slowly and slowly, this town started losing its geographical importance, and now what rests is a very old town with a frozen past. So I just started going on site, sketching activities and build form as it is, juxtaposing them, seeing what all possibilities are there. So I was just honestly having fun knowing the town, and it was exciting for me to know the history, the past, the stories, and I was just having fun with it. So when I started realizing that, okay, what next? Like now that the town has its history and it's old and now it's done and it's sort of stuck in development, what is happening now? Like what are the government plans? So I started inquiring into it because I didn't want to be stuck with, just romanticizing about the past and like get stuck there. So I started looking onto what's going to happen ahead. So now, since Mandvi has a beach and it's really very crowded onto weekends, even now if you go, so there are a lot of people coming for the beach out there, and hence tourism development is promoted by the government. In fact, they are starting like a ferry out there also. Like a beach festival is something that they are promoting. In fact, they would even allow liquor in the dry state of Gujarat because they want to promote tourism and things like that. So government is really planning for tourism. So I was like, okay, if tourism, then let's see what sort of proposals have been given by the government or to the government. So I was just looking at those proposals a little bit. And what I realize is that I need to look at the inquiry of how architecture plays an important role in tourism. So I wanted to analyze because it's an architectural thesis, of course, I didn't want to divert too much into the town only or the tourism aspect only. So I started looking at how tourism has always had some or the other link with architecture. Like if you look at these trophy buildings, these iconic buildings that are created, which sort of boost up the whole town, its economy, like the very famous example of Bilbao Museum and things like that. These architecture has always been like used to define destinations, like any random place also. If you have a very fancy building, people will start coming there to just see that architecture. So like I was analyzing this entire scenario, and what I realized is that there are certain towns, like for example, Masdaq town in near Dubai or whatever, wherein it's a completely blank slate. So you need to add these icons and like a lot of advertising, this and that, to make it into a destination. Whereas there's this other category of towns which are very old, have a history, and they need to be sort of regenerated and revived. But what happens sometimes is that the approach that needs to be taken in both these spaces should be different, but sometimes they become very similar. Like there'll be very typically image-based architecture that will start generating. You'll have typical like spas, gated resorts, or like a Ramada Plaza coming everywhere with the same glass building. So somewhere I started fearing that what this would do is, to the second kind of places which already have a history, it would make them very placeless. And what happens in this kind of things is that the old landmarks typically just become like objects for visual consumption. They are hardly used. They get covered within 9 to 5 boundaries. Ke tum ticket leke, you see this monument come back. The places are hardly usable. And then you have these different set of touristic bubbles and hotspots that gets created, which are very away, farther from the reality, from what the tourist should experience as well. So for the tourist also, it sort of becomes a very fake, imitative experience. At the same time, for the locals, what happens is they have to like probably change their jobs, from like leave their ancient old craft and probably get into becoming a waiter for the hotel because they learn more, for example, or things like that. So on both sides, I feel that there were a lot of negative points, and I thought like there should be another way to intervene into such places. And Mandvi being one of a similar place, I decided to like continue with my interventions there. So like these were some of the concerns which I just spoke about. Moving on to the approach, how I went towards my intervention, I realized that now like every place, like be it Mandvi, be it Jaipur, be it like Rotterdam, any place would have its own DNA built of its people, culture, and everything. So it's important to sort of analyze and read the town very clearly with these memories and associations that people have had over years with the built form, and like understand the activities that sort of happen around different built forms, and then intervene into a site, rather than taking like a blank slate of land 5 kilometers across because it's empty, and build a nice theme park or a resort there. So what I did was created an action plan called Mandvi itself, and I like gave it an acronym of make, attract, network, dwell, value, and integrate. So taking this action plan forward, what I did is I looked at the map of Mandvi and looked at very important landmarks that are existing and categorized into the first 4 points of my action plan. So each site is basically of one category. Some is make, so they sort of manufacture something because there are various crafts, so be it clothes or mojuries or some sort of packaging and things like that. Activate would be sites which have gotten old but are very important to the people, and hence they need to be reactivated. Network were sites which help people connect initially and now have lost their importance. And dwelling would be the old merchant towns that existed, or the dharamshalas that sort of existed onto site, which are now redundant, or because the merchants have moved out of Mandvi to say Bombay or Muscat or Dubai, and their houses are just redundant, but they are very beautiful. So I thought the idea of looking at how to intervene at sites could not be very typical, like creating a site criteria list and this and that. Rather be very organic. Like I have seen numerous things on site. I just organized them into 4 categories and marked them all over. Now for the purpose of my thesis, it was very difficult for me to like sort of make a design intervention everywhere, because that would get tedious. So for the purpose of demonstration, I picked up out of the various sites, I picked up 4 particular sites. So for the make category, I chose the idea of the act of shipbuilding, which happens out there, which is a very prominent craft at Mandvi. To activate, I picked up the heart of the town, which was the market square along with the clock tower. For network, I chose one part of the ruined old wall. And for the dwelling category, I chose up a dharamshala that existed onto my site. So basically that helped me form this red street that you see. It was all in walking distance. So I decided to sort of pick up 4 sites like this out of the many other sites that could be picked up later on over time. Now also the idea of choosing like such small scale interventions was to be very surgical and just do what is required. Like if I don't need to break everything, it's fine. I would keep maximum that can be retained, add something over it. So I wanted to be very sensitive with the interventions, because I didn't want architecture to take over the whole identity of the space, but just enhance the identity of the town. So moving on, I started decided that whatever architecture I do, be it 5%, 10% or 20% or 100% within a site, it should act mainly as a negotiator between the visitors of the town and the locals of the town. It shouldn't be a very big barrier or some gated thing or anything of that sort. It should just be a negotiator where like the tourists can very subtly percolate into the everyday lives of the locals out there. So these are some of my design criterias which I looked on for the same. And like moving on to my first site, which was of the make category. So this was a workshop sort of a thing that I designed for the shipbuilding craft that is going out there. So they already like they have machines and all, but they are all in the open and all. So I thought it's better to give some sort of a shelter and architecture to them and give them some sort of an identity. So I moved on with preserving trees and retaining like all the workshops that they have on site. Then around that, I designed a circulation pathway which sort of followed and like took inspiration from a very typical Mandavi street that we had studied. So all the wind circulation patterns and all would be like taken care of. I placed service cores onto the side so I can have maximum permeability. And then my built form basically took a very natural form onto the pathway. This is how my like building would look from the street. As you can see, it has multiple entry and exit points. A very low, humble height maintains the respect to the object, which is the ship. Like in case if you go to a museum, for example, what a Bilbao does would like take all the attention to it rather than the object itself. But that's fine because the purpose of a Bilbao was to totally like boost the economy. Wherein out here, what I'm saying is that the ship is already magnificent in itself and the architecture just needs to aid it and help it rather than creating small objects of it. So multiple like entry exit points and all dominated my building. You can open up into these courtyards. It's a very free sort of a building. Locals can come in, even the visitors like can come in easily, interact, talk to people. And then entire idea of like the glass box between the visitor and the tourist would sort of get broken down here. Yeah, you can just have a look at certain views. You can see how the scale of the building reacts to the scale of the object, which is the ship out there. Certain spaces. And yeah, so the idea was to create a very cohesive building which sort of respected the entire landscape of the place as well. Hence, the construction material used was also wood, which would be salvaged from the wooden ships that they built on site. Techniques of construction also are picked up, which I have learned from them, like how they make those ship cabins, the cabins on top of the ship. I have used a very similar technique. So the people out there, the ones who are actually building the ships, can also build these workshops, and hence it adds to a sense of ownership to them as well. This is how probably the canteen area would feel like once the tourists interact as well. Some more details. And this is how the building would sit onto the site. Moving on to my next site, which was basically the idea of activating the old Market Square and Clock Tower. So it basically resides in a very dense area. It's in the city center. So I decided to basically retain certain part, like most of my market is retained. All the stone columns are existing as it is. I just intervened in the 1/4 part of my site, cleared up the courtyard, activated it by making making interventions so that it could host a flea market. I broke down the compound wall around the clock tower, made it a little plaza, and connected it with a pedestrian pathway right next to it, where I designed a little bit of vendor seating and a cycle station. The ground floor hosts a Bhojanalaya and the path that I've intervened, and the first floor hosts an exhibition hall. How I've come with the programs are also because like currently the L part of the building was redundant. So the idea of adding a Bhojanalaya would be to sort of let people actually eat what's very local to the place rather than having a fancy restaurant and people serving you. This would be like you take your own thing like a buffet, and even the regular locals can go there and eat their own food. Similarly, the exhibition hall would be a place which would host different exhibitions for like be it clothes like bani or batik or jutis or anything that the people who make only in the surroundings, they can come book their slots in the exhibition and like for like whatever 1 day, 2 days, and then go back again. So, and they would have a good host of audience as the tourists as well. And in this way, I imagine this to be a place where the tourists would easily get into the life of the locals, and especially of the women and children who are the heart of this place. So some drawing, some views. How this is how the courtyard would look when activated. The Bhojnalaya and the exhibition area. So it basically the roof I have contemporized to be a steel structure which could easily lightly sit onto the stone columns. And yeah. This is exactly how the construction would happen, a schematic version of it. And this is how the market would look once populated and into activity. The third site I intervened into was a broken part of the town wall out there, which was redundant right now. So the very interesting thing that I learned about this town when I was looking at the history was that the town gates would be shut in the night and they would open up in the morning. So the traders who would like come from the ship to the town would reside in the dharamshalas outside the walls, and then in the morning you could enter these walls. However, these walls from the inside had, like you can see those columns, they had this sort of an arcade where they had shops and houses as well. So I decided into re-intervening that space, and rather than keeping it very redundant, I added a bicycle stand because I wanted to promote the idea of slowly moving into the town and exploring rather than going into a typical touristy bus and just looking down upon the activities happening in the town. I also activated it by adding a little bit of eating facility and a little general shop sort of a thing and a restroom. A very little and basic programmatic intervention, but the idea mainly was to activate the space and make it a platform where the tourists and visitors would sort of interact. The second level, the first level, and this would how the top level would look like. So the addition out here that I did was with a cotton steel deck that I added onto the existing stone columns. And like that's it, a staircase of cotton steel and the decks as well, and flooring, that's all. This is how it would look once populated and activated. The fourth category that I was addressing was the dwelling idea. Like in a typical hotel, you would go, you would have like your, a very, what do you say, a distinguished experience in the hotel as compared to how you are going to, how the actual life of Mandvi is going to be like. So I thought, why not intervene, like rather than taking a blank slate and creating dwelling facilities for the tourists, look at these old buildings which are redundant and like just probably do a new interiors, refurnish them, renovate them, and make them livable. So the idea here was to strip down the entire dharamshalas diagrammatically and understand what columns needed to be like sort of strengthened and what walls needed to be demolished and things like that. So once those things were identified, I started doing a basic layout wherein I have plugged into each dharamshala one local family. At the same time, they would host 3 to 4 rooms that they have as extras for the guests. What this would do is generate income for the locals also who are staying there. So they don't have to leave their own profession of a craft or whatever that they are doing and become a waiter or anything. At the same time, the good point for the guests is that they get a much more local experience out there. So a lot of common activity areas and all. And what I've done is connected all these the gullies between the dharamshalas by adding otlas, which are very native to the place of Mandvi. So they become activated as people can sit there and interact during evenings and things like that. So the elevation would look from the street, a section through the courtyards of the dharamshalas. However, you reuse the salvage doors and windows. And this is how the spaces would feel like. And yeah, this is how the building would sit on site. So, this is how I interacted into the 4 places onto the site that I decided. However, this project goes way beyond these 4 sites, because these are just demonstration sites, as I would say. The idea is to basically value what we have as at the site, and integrate our interventions and our architecture very subtly into these places, rather than creating new very heavy sort of interventions which would act placeless. So my approach really targeted at just refining whatever Mandvi has and celebrating that to the world for people to come and experience it. And I believe that, be it any other place, be it Mandvi, Raipur, or whatever other places are there, if we do interventions very surgically, we can have a much more sensitive architecture that can be developed for the same purpose. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm done if
Thanks a lot,
anyone has any
Preksha.
questions.
Do we have any
Yeah,
questions for
welcome.
Preksha?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sir. You're the only one.
No, very a highly culture sensitive approach, and it's a soft culture sensitive approach. Very nicely done. Okay, your graphics have a wonderful quality. They are lively, yet they are not. The colors are so soft, and the effect is so good. Well done. I think you're on a good thing. You should actually try and get this thing implemented. I mean, that
Yeah,
this should be your
actually,
first. This should be your first project.
yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely, I would look into that.
it's doable. It's something
Yeah,
that it could be even done by the locals. You know, they can get involved. This could be
right.
a help kind of project. This is wonderful. So good
Yeah.
luck to you, and all the very best with this. Take it as far as you can take it.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay. And then tell us about it.
Definitely, I would, definitely.
All right. All right. Good luck. All the best. Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Well
you,
done. Wonderful.
sir.
Uh,
Any other questions,
I
guys?
had a question regarding this. So, when there are
Yeah.
several interventions happening in a village, and to see them visually, still see material palette remains same in all of the 4 interventions that are happening. So, what is the other connect between the 4 than the visual connect of having material same that connects all 4 of them together? So,
Yeah,
other than
so
visual, what is the connect?
okay, so the connect honestly between the 4 sites is not entirely material as well. Because as you see in the first site where the ship workshop that I've done, I've used wood entirely. In the market, I've added a steel roof, that's all. In the wall, I've added a cotton steel deck, so it's a little different. And the dharamshalas, I have not added anything, honestly. It's just redoing the layouts and things like probably paints and landscapes and floors and things like that. So honestly, the thing is, what connects them is that they are existing the way they are, and the activities around them are existing the way they are. They've just like been helped for. And other than that, a street network connects them because they are like at a good walking distance and all of that. Other than that, I don't think I've even intended to connect them in any sort like that. And like I feel like later on, if these things get implemented slowly, like graphic designers and all can move in, and there can be posters and all made, go see these attractions and things like that. Some things like that would help people connect these sites in their mind. But other than that, I don't think there is any connect that I've tried to do.
Thanks a lot, Preksha. Do we have any more questions?
Like just the one thing I would like to tell
Yeah.
to all you guys watching this is that don't think of representation and all from now only for your thesis. Just focus onto the idea of what you are trying to do. Just try and get that clarity that okay, this is what you have seen. This is the problem, or it's not a problem. It's just an observation. And then hence this is somehow architecture is linked to it or not linked to it. If it is not, then like go and think of something else. And if it's not linked to architecture, I would like tell you all don't go ahead, because it is an architecture thesis. And then and the fourth thing is then how do you intervene and don't be very straightforward thinking कि नहीं अभी site selection criteria तो करना ही पड़ेगा ना ये करना पड़ेगा. There are no set rules. See what is like what your thesis is asking you to do to itself. Like speak to it more, and you will get your answers eventually. And then the graphics and all will happen later on in like 15-20 days. So like don't take that load on your head from the start. That's all.
Firstly, I want to thank all the 4 speakers for this session. It really was good to know your experiences of this final endeavor. And yeah, we conclude today's session, and we'll actually be concluding our thesis symposium. So thanks a lot for joining in today, everyone. We'll be concluding our thesis symposium tomorrow with our final session with new set of speakers at the same time. Stay tuned. See you all tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Bye bye.